violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video. So guys, I came across this article today and it was pretty interesting. So I definitely wanted to go over and review it with you guys. They're talking about DC becoming the chocolate city again after the pandemic. White flight reverses gentrification trend. And this is written by none other than Bruce C.T. Wright. He is a brother, and I guess he's trying to make this seem like it's a good thing when in the column is obviously race matters. He doesn't realize what he's even saying, I don't think. And if he doesn't bring up the crime in this article, you can tell he's just being disingenuous in this article. But anyways, they have a picture of these sisters double Dutch jump roping in DC, okay, at the Black Lives Matter Plaza, when we all know that Black lives don't matter to Black men or women in DC. But let's get into it. There are now fewer white people who call the nation's capital home than there were before the pandemic, and a demographic shift that is helping to restore the Chocolate City nickname that had increasingly become a misnomer in recent years. During 12 months in the middle of the the CV pandemic, more than 10,000 non-Hispanic white people fled Washington, D.C., according to the Washington Post, which cited newly released census data. Those findings show a serious reversal of white people moving to the city that is part of a large heated debate about the effects of gentrification has had on the District of Columbia's Black population. Well, I mean, you don't have to cry about gentrification anymore. Nobody wants to invest in D.C. because of what the super gremlins have done to the city. In the 4 years preceding the pandemic, the city had been adding non-Hispanic white residents at a rate of around 4,000 to 5,000 each year. The Post reported, but between July 2020 and July 2021, it lost 10,285 people from that group, according to the Bureau's annual population estimates for the nation, states, and counties by age, sex, race, and Hispanic origin. The apparent so-called white flight phenomenon of white people fleeing urban areas in droves was consistent with trends in other major cities ravaged by the CV. No, it's not the CV. What it was is the major cities that had violent riots and protests over George Floyd's death was why you saw that uptick in crime, and then the white flight, as they call it. Those numbers may not be reflected on the official Census Bureau page for Washington, D.C., which shows the city has a black population of 45.8% compared to white population of 45.9%. While the margin is slim as it can be, the number of white people eclipsing black people in a city renowned for its black population has prompted a number of questions. Back in the 1980s, as much as 70% of the city's population was estimated to be black people. Decades later, the majority was threatened before finally being eclipsed by white residents in 2015. Now, guys, I want you guys to reverse a lot of the verbiage in this article and switch white with black and black with white, and switch the author and make him a white author. This dude would be canceled if he was so focused on the population of black and white people. If he was a white guy saying, man, there's been a lot more black people in DC, and this is insane. But hey, this is the country that we live in. This is these leftist talking points, so let's get into it. The number of white people living in D.C. had been steadily increasing until the Census Bureau released its new findings Thursday. A glaring example of the surge of white people living in black DC neighborhoods came in 2019 when Howard University students and community residents attended an advisory neighborhood commission meeting to voice concerns with white local residents using the historically black college campus to walk their dogs. And separately nearby, new residents living in a luxury apartment building complained about a decades-long tradition of a store on the corner of Florida Avenue and 7th Street in the Shaw neighborhood playing go-go music from speakers outside the business. A 2017 study published by Georgetown, and we saw what happened at the go-go Coachella / Juneteenth event, which we're going to get into. A 2017 study published by Georgetown University analyzing the impact of the district's booming economy on black residents painted a picture of profound economic disparities between the city's black and white residents. The average net worth of a white household was $284,000 compared to just $3,500 for a black household. And then we have to go into why that is, and it's a long drawn out discussion, but I think we can pretty much depict why that is in the series of videos that I'm about to show you. Unfortunately, there was also a huge gap in median annual incomes, whites with 120,000 and blacks with 41,000. Okay, which is the average for a black man, around 40,000 a year in the US. But in DC, obviously those numbers are staggered, and the distribution is great. The disproportionate number of new jobs in DC requiring at least a bachelor's degree stood in stark contrast with the 12% of black DC residents being college graduates. As of 2014, the study noted. Consequently, white residents were able to pay more for housing, which has driven up costs and reduced available affordable housing. Those types of inequalities stem from a history of discrimination that pushed discrimination that pushed the district blacks residents to the fringes of the economy. The study said historic discriminatory practices have ranged from segregated schools to redlining, a racist practice in which banks refuse to lend money to black entrepreneurs and home buyers. Okay, so he blamed all of it on redlining. Okay, so the white flight is due to redlining and the historical discriminatory practices. Okay.
The way it ended was serious enough, but police say this scene was more than a car crash.
What happened early this morning clearly could have ended tragically.
The Montgomery County Police Chief says his department had extra patrols in this Bethesda neighborhood because of a recent string of burglaries when they got a call for another one on Johnson Avenue. Police say they spotted a stolen car, and when they tried to tail it, the suspects opened fire on their squad car, with one bullet hitting the passenger side headrest. So
it showed you how close in proximity that it came to actually striking the actual officer.
After a short chase, police say the suspects crashed, and 3 16-year-olds from Northwest D.C. were taken into custody and are now facing burglary and attempted murder charges as adults.
The people whose homes were allegedly targeted this morning didn't want to say anything on camera, but one man told me he's lived here 18 years and has never seen anything like this in this neighborhood. The age of the suspects also surprised a lot of people.
And the fact that these 3 suspects are all juveniles is simply disturbing. We've heard way too often.
So you heard that. All the suspects are juveniles. These super teen gremlins are on demon time.
The young people are really kind of resigning themselves to finding guns and to be in possession of guns because they think it is a safety mechanism for them because they believe others have them. We really have to dig deeper into root cause of why young people are doing what they're doing.
There we go. And he says root cause. It's the culture, bruh. It's the culture.
Casey Nolan, WUSA 9.
It makes me feel safe, secure.
Spot Tyler Izagiri on the street, and you're not likely to notice the slight bulge just under his coat. But he is one of thousands of civilians now licensed to conceal carry handguns in D.C.
And these white collar gliders are done with y'all's BS. I'm going to tell you that right now. They're finished. They're not playing with y'all no more. They're not playing with y'all no more. So when y'all going up to the nation's capital and y'all trying to stick people up and rob them for their cars, and it's going to be a rude awakening for some of these super gremlins.
We're just looking for ways to further expand our Second Amendment rights.
D.C. has already been forced by gun rights lawsuits to issue concealed carry permits to people who pass a background check and finish 16 hours of training. Now Izagiri and 3 other local men are demanding the right to carry on metro trains and metro buses in D.C., which have been among dozens of sensitive areas like schools, bars, and government offices, where guns have been banned.
It is legal in Virginia to carry on the metro. In fact, you could open carry on the metro in Virginia. It is legal if you have a wear and carry permit in Maryland.
The plaintiffs argue Metro is very different from an airport or an airplane.
There's the lack of police presence, there's lack of security. It's definitely a target area for crime.
Yep, and a lot of these public transit systems are a target for these super gremlins on demon time. And you know that's your only defense is to arm yourself, okay? And this is the world that we live in. It's unfortunate, but the liberals, the leftists, they have opened up a gateway for crime to just be enabled, and people aren't standing for it, and there's pushback, and I think that conservatives, they're going to make a sweeping correction in a lot of this. I mean, we've seen it with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We're seeing it with these gun laws that are going into effect in New York and Washington, D.C. So it's going to be interesting.
Criminals, that's just the holster.
The D.C. Attorney General's office declined to comment on the Guns on Metro lawsuit, but did say earlier that the Office of the Attorney General will continue to defend the district's common sense gun regulations and keep district residents safe. As the Supreme Court said, the Second Amendment is not a license to keep and carry any weapon in any manner for any purpose. Maryland still requires you to have a good reason to get a concealed carry permit. But last week's Supreme Court ruling on guns in public leaves that and Maryland's assault weapons ban under withering fire. At Union Station, Bruce LaShan, WUSA 9.
A deadly shooting that happened over the Juneteenth holiday weekend. D.C. police releasing these photos today of a person of interest in that shooting that killed 15-year-old Chase Poole and injured 3 adults after the Mochella Festival at 14th and U Streets on June 19th. Now, if you recognize him, D.C. police want to hear from you. Here's Police Chief Robert Conti.
Chase Poole family needs our city right now.
Wow. So Robert Conti is the police chief of Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, a brother. And we're still talking about representation. I swear every city we go, every major city we go, they always have the highest crime. And there's always a brother or a sister as a police chief. I don't know what y'all doing out there, but y'all got some explaining to do. You know, like I said, we talk about representation, but we're represented. It's just like, what are we doing with it?
And I'm asking because your city needs the public right now. The young man in this photo, you may have run from U Street, but you cannot run from accountability. And you cannot hide from the citizens of the District of Columbia.
This announcement comes as Chase Poole's loved ones said their final farewells at the teenager's funeral today.
Well, that shooting at Mochella was clearly on D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser's mind as she held a news conference to announce stepped-up crime prevention plans for the holiday weekend and beyond. She began that news conference with a message for parents. Your family's safety starts with you.
Make sure you know where your teenagers are and where your young adults are this weekend. Make sure you know who they are with and what they are up to. We want to have a weekend of fun and not tragedy.
You heard what she said. She said, sisters, come get your kids.
Make sure you know who they are with and what they are up to. We want to have a weekend of fun and not tragedy.
Mayor Bowser also talked about 2 crime prevention initiatives. First, GO teams. These are civilian violence interrupters who will be out this weekend at large gatherings. Second, a new program called the Nightlife Task Force.
Violence interrupters. Lord have mercy. And the Nightlife Task Force, they better be armed.
These are police officers who will focus on popular nightclub corridors this weekend and all summer long.
At the Tampa, the story you saw breaking first here on Fox 5 at 5 tonight. Fairfax County shooting and killing a man in a mall parking lot.
So this happened this afternoon at Springfield Town Center. We're told that the man was wanted and armed. Fox 5's Josh Rosenthal joins us live now with the very latest. Josh?
Guys, we are talking about a busy mall on a warm summer afternoon. Kids around, parents around, and now you've got a major investigation.
Our 3 Fairfax County police officers told our gunman at least 20 times to drop his gun.
According to Fairfax Police, what happened at Springfield Town Center Thursday evening stems from an incident that took place Sunday.
And of course, these super gremlins are not going to listen to directions when asked to drop the weapon. It's ridiculous. And they're talking about, oh, we getting killed in the street, bruh. Listen to directions, bruh.
They say a 37-year-old man who lives in the area stole a gun from a family member and fired it inside of a home. Police tell us they got a warrant, ultimately tracked the man to the mall parking lot, where Chief Kevin Davis says 3 officers in uniform confronted him. Davis says the man was armed and inside of a parked car, but despite repeated warnings from the officers, he never dropped his gun.
Our gunman was armed with this firearm, and we have recovered it from the scene.
Investigators say 2 of the 3 officers fired. All 3 were wearing body cams, and the chief said he has reviewed the footage. Thursday's incident is the second time there's been a shooting at a Fairfax.
You heard what he said. He said he finna apply pressure. Let's run it back.
Fairfax County Mall this month. They say 2 of the 3 officers fired. All 3 were wearing body cams, and the chief said he has reviewed the footage. Thursday's incident is the second time there's been a shooting at a Fairfax County Mall this month. This footage is from Tyson's Corner Mall, not even 2 weeks ago.
I think we're all, whether you live in Fairfax County or anywhere in America, concerned about firearm violence anywhere, but particularly public spaces.
None of the officers were injured. All of their body camera footage will be made public within the next 30 days. And as of now, the suspect's name has not been made public. Guys.
First tonight, breaking news. D.C. law enforcement sources are confirming several people were shot, including a police officer. All of this happening near 14th and U Streets in Northwest. And we now know a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed as well. Fox 5's Lindsay Watts is on the scene. Lindsay, what's the latest?
Teacher, we got this sad news from police that a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed. 2 adults were shot and injured, and a D.C. police officer also shot and injured.
So this is an update on the Mochella Juneteenth Go-Go Festival in D.C. on U Street. It's like we just don't know how to get together, and when we get together, we don't know how to act. And that's you know, there's no other way to slice it. This isn't just me saying it. This is a lot of people, and there's a silent majority who see this stuff going on, and we despise it. But, you know, you're kind of ridiculed in the community if you go against crime, if you lean toward empathizing with victims instead of these super gremlins on demon time.
This happened at an event known as Mochella, meant to celebrate Juneteenth. D.C. police saying tonight this was an unpermitted event, and it was...
Couldn't even get the damn permits. It starts with the little things. We gotta start doing things the right way. Point blank.
Going on 14th and U Street. Police were here. They were trying to clear the streets. The chief says that police first found an unpermitted gun, and soon after that, the shooting happened. And I want to bring in Daniel Dyson now, who tells me that he was standing right next to the police officer who was shot. Can you tell me about what you experienced?
Well, just being out here on this huge street corridor, it was live music here. It was a lot of things going on. Like I said, there's cops everywhere. They were trying to keep everybody safe, trying to move everybody accordingly. I was sitting next to a cop. Next thing you know, shots rang out. He did not want to stay down. He proceeded on.
Shot in the leg.
Yeah, he was shot in the leg, and he kept moving. He went to the fire. He did not run away. And I was sitting here, my mind is blown because, you know.
So you heard what he said. The cop went straight to the fire, the gunfire, the bravery. This is a rational, logical brother seeing this in real time, that when these super gremlins start shooting, the cops run toward the fight. And now I bet he's thinking a little different about the defund the police movement. And but sisters, they can't rationally think like that. Like, they will still be in denial. Well, they should have did this, or they should have did that, or they shouldn't have let it happen in the first place. You know what I'm saying? When it's an unsanctioned event, the person who threw the event did not get permits. It was just like a pop-up shop, and thousands of people showed up, doing everything out of order. As a community, we are out of order and out of line, and it has to stop. It's getting ridiculous. And, you know, certain logical brothers are waking up. The sisters are still asleep and will forever be asleep, unfortunately.
No, I was trying to cover up this guy, and next thing you know, they say he's no longer here. So
and that was the 15-year-old child.
Yeah, he was screaming out for his mom. And it's hurtful to hear that, man. And nobody was able to help him.
The brother said he was screaming out for Ma Dukes, bro. This is sad.
To see him go, it's like, it bothers me. All of this that's going on here, it bothers me, and it needs to come to a stop. It really does. I couldn't even tell you how I feel about certain things, and this right here is too much for me.
So you heard what he said. He can't tell you about how he feels about certain things, and he has a hat on that says the Black Coalition Against CV, and he's got all this blackety black stuff on, so obviously he's woke. But maybe he's waking up.
This has to come to a standstill. I'm sorry that I have to be a black person on TV telling you this.
You heard him. He thinks if he's saying that, yo, black people need to stop getting killed in the street and black people need to stop killing each other in the street, by saying that, he realized that he was going off script. He was going off code. He even he had to apologize for saying something that was moralistic and just in nature. This is how sick the community is, to where if you say the right thing, you're ridiculed, you're a lame, you ain't no real N-word, and it's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. And I commend this brother, because obviously his gear is woke as hell, but in his mind he's like, yo, these niggas is crazy. Excuse my French.
To a standstill. I'm sorry that I have to be a black person on TV telling you this. It don't matter what your color is, your race, what kind of uniform you're wearing. It needs to come to a stop. And if it don't, it's going to be innocent kids dying every day because people don't want to do this.
At this festival, there were dads. We saw small children that were there.
It was here, and we were trying to enjoy ourselves. Crowds kept running back and forth, and to see this happen, and we're actually here again where someone left on a holiday. This is something I would never forget, and I don't think I would ever forget this, ever. I think I would need more help after this.
Ruined this brother's Juneteenth. A lot of people's Juneteenths were ruined, man. Ancestors rolling in their graves, y'all.
And this, I don't think I would come outside for nothing else ever here in D.C.
Daniel, we are so glad that you were safe.
He said he's not outside. He's done with outside. Outside is destruction. Outside is death. Outside is demon time.
Tonight, and thank you so much for coming out and sharing this with us. We appreciate you.
Anytime.
Thank you. And tonight, D.C. police still looking for a shooter. We'll have updates, of course, for you tomorrow morning. Back to you.
Lindsay, thanks so much. What an emotional interview there. Of course, we'll follow the latest developments concerning that shooting. Meanwhile, an investigation is...
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago, where a drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured, but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/
@blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Genquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo! Ain't that nigga Jay
Nah,
Quavius?
that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live
That
with
ain't
that
me.
funky ass
Yeah,
suit on.
that's that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Genquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
All right, guys. So, we do have this story of the moment you've all been waiting for. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden, the president's son. He is indulging in all carnal things and getting it paid for by our tax dollars. It appears, it seems, or it even feels like. But anyways, he is interacting with a hooker, a streetwalker, an intercourse worker, okay, a thought pocket, a smut bucket, whatever you want to call it. He is interacting with her, a Russian one at that, which, I mean, isn't that freaking treason? You laying down with a Russian hooker while we're basically in a Cold War with Russia. But anyways, so I mean, he's obviously committed treason with his dangling. All right, so let's get into it. How much would another 8 hours cost? This is Hunter. I've paid $5,000 for first 8 hours that ends at noon. How much would you charge me for another 8 hours, which would make 16 hours all the oftener? She says 5 bands. He said, Eva, first of all, it only cost me $4,800 first 8 hours. I have her 200 to be nice, or I have here 200 to be nice. So he's obviously on drugs because his grammar is off. And she says, okay. He says, you gave always take at least 100 off for anything over 4 with so how about 9 bands total? She said 9,500. Okay, so you got this. She said her WAP got power. She a bold little thought. She out here negotiating the price of the WAP. That's crazy. So here we go. He sent a Cash App request, and there is his username for the Cash App. Oh, that's her. She sent the Cash App. You should have gotten a text. He said, did it come through? Or she said, did it come through following that?
Sweetheart. Hey.
So this is her. She's not really much to look at, but it says Joseph R. Biden Jr. Wow. So there you have it. Cash App and chicks, man. They tricking out here, bruh. Even the president's son tricking. It's I mean, for the dating market, it's a cold world. You got the president's son paying 5 bands, 10 bands to smash these thoughts, man. It's ridiculous.
Hey, are you okay? Everything fine? Are you hurt in any way?
So he's asking her if she's okay. He's filming her. It looks like she's calling for backup. He says, hey, sorry to bug you. So this is him hitting up his dad, Joe Biden, the president. Hey, sorry to bug you, Dad. No wire has gone through. Do you mind checking? I called Mel and he's out of the office. And then Joe Biden says, went out at 1:40. And then, all the Wells Fargo information. Let me know status, please, Dad. And then it says, it made it to my account before close of business. Thanks, Dad. I just asked Katie to let Sidewell know that their payment would be there Monday morning and told Kathleen the same. All will be fine, and I have to say it because I hate to have to ask you when for the first time in your life you're able to build a nest egg and I'm already draining it. BB, I will work it out, Dad. I promise. I love you. Where are you? Hunt, it is not an issue. Have lots time for nest egg. So he said he got a bag. Love you. If you get a chance, give me a call tonight at Lake or tomorrow. I love you.
Yeah. Any way. Are you hurt? Hey, Is anything hurt on you?
10 bands for that? These dudes is bugging.
Anything? I was literally saying, I'm sorry that it took so long to give you $10,000. Do you have any bruise? Anything? Have I ever touched you in a bad way? Ever? Have I asked you every time if I could touch you?
So it looks like he's trying to defend his honor. Maybe she said, oh, I'll say this, I'll say that about you. It's not looking good. It's not looking good in the nation's capital. You got super gremlins running the streets, and these thoughts who are for the streets overcharging for box. I mean, 10, oh my God. I can't believe he paid 10 bands for this.
Every time. Sweetheart, look at me. You cannot talk to me that way and say things like that. Because I'm more respectful than anyone you've ever met. Are you okay? What?
This is the first family, y'all.
We did it, Joe.
Here.
No.
I thought you said you wanted water. It's the only water I have.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.